everyone! Welcome back to my channel. I have a card process video for you today using Wild Whispers Poem Paradise collection. And we are going to have fun with birds. Eee! So when I got my Poem Paradise collection for the first time and I flipped through it, the first thing that kept striking me were these birds. And after talking to Susie, one of the owners of Wild Whisper, discovered that these birds are real birds. They're actually, some of them are some of Susie's pets, which I thought was so cute. So I really wanted to utilize my birds, but I didn't really have any pictures that went with birds. So I decided I was going to make cards. So I made a card off camera just as an extra bit of creativity while I was doing another project for this design team. But while I was creating one card, I had this amazing idea for a second card. And I was like, well, I didn't do a video with my first bird card, so let's do a video with my second bird card. Because those birds are cute. And I'm not a bird person, but something about them. They're just like, they're hand-drawn and they're kind of colorful and they're not, they're whimsical. They're birds that don't take themselves very seriously. So I'm going to fussy cut all these birds and these leaves from the cut apart sheet. And I decided I knew exactly what I wanted for the sentiment of my card. So there's the stamp set is called Rooted Love. And there's the sentiment on there that says, friends are the family we choose. And I really wanted that to be the sentiment of my card. So my plan for this card was that I was going to stack the birds up into a cute little stack of birds. And I was going to use to emboss this sentiment to the front of my card. So initially I'm going to just mess the sentiment up really bad. But I wanted to use my Dirty Sand embossing powder from Emerald Creek. And there were a couple of things I knew going into stamping the title of this card, the sentiment for this card. Number one, I knew that stamping and heat embossing the sentiment before I even fussy cut the birds, maybe not the best idea. Number two, I knew that Emerald Creek embossing powder is not really for embossing sentiments on cards. It's really chunky and it's dimensional and it's really for other purposes. Not that it's terrible at heat embossing, you totally can heat emboss, but for a scripty sentiment, you need maybe a more fine embossing powder. So I stuffed this up horribly. And then I went ahead and I took a brush and I just brushed all the embossing powder off. I kind of warmed up the paper a little bit. And yeah, then I was like, well, let's try it again. Why not? I can do this. I can totally make this embossing powder work, right? And so I went ahead, I stamped it again. I flicked a bunch off. So I used Alt's New Embossing Pad and Dirty Sand embossing powder from Emerald Creek, and then I also used my anti-static powder tool, which was really necessary. And this time it worked. You could read the sentiment, kind of, and it was totally fine. It really kind of blended in, and it would have been okay. We would have made it work, and it would have been fine, except for the part where, you notice I didn't fussy cut my birds yet, right? So the birds are still not fussy cut. And I'm not thinking about the fact that once I fussy cut them, these birds are huge for a card. Anyway, so this is all going to get covered up completely anyway. And I left this in here because, guys, I'm not a card maker. I'm not an authority on this by any means. I love to play with products. I love to color my cards. I love to do all that kind of stuff. But I'm not a really amazing card maker. If you want amazing card making, I highly recommend Kathy Zilski and Christina Warner because they are amazing card makers. I'm just, ho-hum. I'm more experimental card maker. Let's say that. So this could have worked. It truly could have, but I just didn't let it work because I really wanted the birds in a stack being family. So I went ahead off camera and I fussy cut all the things. And this is where I discover the birds are huge. They're not huge, but they are bigger than they were in my head. So we are going to I'm going to actually ink up the edges of my card panel twice. So I do it this way with just the edge, and it was okay, but I wanted it to be more. So I'm just brushing off any extra anti-static powder tool, any errant embossing bits of stuff, and I've just kind of decided that we're just going to ignore the embossing there. I didn't want to waste the paper. I did think about just cutting myself a whole new card panel and starting over, but I didn't want to waste it, and I figured for as big as these birds were, I can cover up that embossing without a problem, and sure enough, I did. So I want the birds sitting on top of each other. So the first bird there got a nice amount of foam on the back, and that's the real thick, that's the heavy pop dots. They're not pop dots, but you know, they're the foam squares from scrapbook adhesives. So what I did was I put the gray bird on foam squares, and then I adhered the toucan straight to the card panel, and then that little green, I think it's a budgie, but I'm not 100% sure. It went on thin foam squares. And now I had gone ahead and die cut some of these leaves, and those are what is going to kind of cover up the errant embossing. Oh God, you didn't see anything. I'm even going to pop that leaf up a little bit. And then I'm going to put the third leaf up at the top of the card so you have a nice kind of triangle area for your eye to follow, those kinds of things. And I got my birds stacked up. I'm so happy. That was like my goal. Sometimes when I open a new package of supplies, there are things that kind of just pop into my head that stick with me until I just do them. One of the things was this stack of birds. So I decided I wanted a little bit more ink around the edges of my card base. And to get a little bit more ink there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the ink blending tool a little bit off the edge of my card and onto my media mat. And I love that because it gives like the perfect inking effect when you want just a little bit more. So I know that I want to pull in, I feel like that pink down in the bottom quarter from that flower is really like sticking out, right? And there is some pink in the toucan's beak, but I definitely want some more something on this card. So I went ahead through my stash and I found these matte gray enamel dots that kind of perfectly complemented the little gray bird at the bottom. Then I found these half beads from Ink Road. They're this gorgeous like pink color, and I'm going to use those. And then I also grabbed Sparkly Effervescence from Spiegelmom Scraps, which are like just these clear bubbles, and they're really cute. And that's just going to pull, I felt like I needed to pull the colors in a little bit. We have tons of green. I didn't feel like we needed more green. There were 3 areas that had that pretty yellow in it, but I felt like we needed a little bit, just a little bit of pops of pink, and I felt like the gray enamel dots just matched that gray bird too perfectly not to use them. So I'm just going to kind of sprinkle them around my card panel. I still want my card to have that sentiment, right? That was like the reason I was going to stack my birds to begin with, because they were all different birds and I had this cute sentiment from Rooted Love stamp set that I wanted to use. So I decided just to put it on the inside of my card, and I'm just stamping it with Altenew Permanent Black ink, and that's going to be the sentiment for the inside of my card. And in the end, it turned out just the way I wanted it. Stacked birds and my appropriate sentiment. I hope you enjoyed this kind of fun card process video today. Easy peasy, kind of, you know, cards are not, what was I going to say? I'm the experimental card person, so, you know. I'm just going to go ahead and attach the card base to, or the card panel to the card base, and that's going to finish this up. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Be sure to head over to the Wild Whisper website if you haven't grabbed this fun little mini collection yet, because it is super, I've been having a blast with it. So have a wonderful day. I'll see you all again soon. Oh, and there's a coupon code down below, so I'm just trimming. I'm going to grab my guillotine trimmer here and just kind of trim up.
It's pronounced guillotine.
Okay. I'm going to get my guillotine trimmer, and my son has been, seriously, I'm not kidding you, like stalking this voiceover, just waiting to get his voice into it. Ugh. But there it is, all finished. You can find my discount code and all the information you need to get yourself some of these beautiful products. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye.